Have you ever seen this screen in Tarkov? That's right, 15 different attachments per gun. Have you seen this? Abilities that get nerfed and buffed every patch, and sometimes even reworked completely. But there's one game that has been alive for 25 years with virtually nothing changed. The same guns, the same maps, the same premise. Plant the bomb or stop it. And somehow, it has created more depth, more skill expression, and more unforgettable moments than games with 100 times the content. I've spent the past decade playing this game, not really giving any thoughts to why CS feels different. Never thinking about why it endures and why it actually matters. But recently, after giving it a little bit of thought, I realized the beauty of Counter-Strike actually lies in its simplicity. But first, let's talk about where it all began. Counter-Strike started as a mod in June 1999. Two guys, Min Lee and Jess Cliff, thought Half-Life's multiplayer mode needed something to spice it up. So, they booted up their coding workspaces and got to work coding it. Counter-Strike 1.0 was rough. It had really basic weapon models and simple maps. But the core gameplay loop was already there. Attackers versus defenders, one bomb, and limited money with no respawns until the round is over. But when they were done coding it, something unexpected happened. The mod absolutely exploded. It was so popular, in fact, that Valve themselves acquired the rights to Counter-Strike and hired both the devs to continue working on the game. Alongside that, players could create their own maps, with the best creations rising to the top, making the game grow organically, both in players and content. As competitive gaming became more popular in the early 2000s, big events like the Cyber Athlete Professional League, otherwise known as CPL, started hosting Counter-Strike as its centerpiece game. This fueled the fire to the competitive esports scene that has since blossomed into what we see today. By 2003, CS 1.6 had solidified everything. The movement physics felt perfect, the weapon balance was dialed in, and the economy system was more or less tuned, creating endless strategic depth. This was the version of the game that defined an entire era. They did change a few things though. They added in the FAMAS and Galil to allow teams to play with a weaker weapon, while being able to afford nades for tactical plays. This version also introduced the controversial tactical shield, which was an item that was so divisive that it was outright banned in most competitive leagues. But the real thing that made 1.6 legendary was the perfect blend of the Goal Source engine's classic gameplay and its community-driven refinement over the years. The combat was fluid and accurate, and the movement was
nice.
CS 1.6 became the most played game in the biggest pro leagues at the time, which were CPL and the World Cyber Games. The game was so influential that we can still observe things that were inspired by Counter-Strike to this day. 1.6 was not just a game, it was literally a cultural landmark in the gaming world. And don't forget about Condition Zero. Even though it was not as well received as 1.6, it's still considered a playground for new concepts and a transition to its next major release. What made Condition Zero special was the fact that it featured a single-player campaign that made you buy bots to assist you in your missions throughout the world of Counter-Strike. In late 2004, Counter-Strike Source was released. It brought back the mostly multiplayer-focused game mode and scrapped the campaign seen in Condition Zero. And it brought with it Valve's new Source engine. This was a huge overhaul of graphics, including much more detailed and realistic physics. It also included ragdoll effects for the very first time that gave the impression of the game being more immersive. But not all was good. The game had the effect of creating a rift in the community. More specifically, the new Source engine's physics and weapon handling were quite different from Goal Source's engine that 1.6 was based on. So veterans felt that the gunplay was less accurate and the movement somewhat floaty. For years, the community was divided between the 1.6 loyalists and those who adapted to the Source engine. However, in time, CS Source has managed to gather its own loyal community and turned itself into a successful competitive game, ensuring the future of the Counter-Strike series. A whole 8 years later, in 2012, Valve, together with Hidden Path Entertainment, decided to launch Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Their main objective was to develop an updated version of the game, which would be able to merge the player bases from 1.6 and Source. They managed to do so, but nobody could have expected how big it would become. Not only was CSGO successful in bringing the communities back together, but it also blew the f up in the mainstream gaming world. So you know how competitive matchmaking is now a thing everywhere, right? Ranked queues were basically non-existent back in 2012. And CSGO was one of the first competitive games to establish this system where ranks and skill groups matter to find fair matches on dedicated servers. Another thing that CSGO introduced? Skins. Skins revolutionized the Steam marketplace, which allowed players to buy keys to open cases that they would find in-game for a chance to get a super rare skin. Today, the skin market is worth at an estimated 4.2 billion US dollars. Yeah, billion. Its competitive scene also thrived as it positioned itself at the forefront of modern esports, and its major organizers attracted full-capacity arenas and millions of online viewers, watching to see who would be the next best team in the world. It's important to note though, a little later into its release, Valve decided to turn it free to play, letting everyone have a taste of Counter-Strike. Well, it's mostly cheaters, but you get what I mean. And that brings us to today's Counter-Strike, Counter-Strike 2. Valve announced its release in 2023, and to nobody's surprise, CS2 wouldn't be a new different game like its predecessors had done, but a free and complete port of CSGO to the Source 2 engine. I mean, they basically had no choice. It was either make the free upgrade of CS to CS2, or make a standalone game which would undoubtedly split the player base and, I bet more importantly, destroy and devalue the existing CSGO skin market. But anyways, the most significant and controversial change was the sub-tick system. Instead of the server checking 64 times every second whether an action was done, this new sub-tick system claimed to register every single action right as it happened, which a lot of players found flaws in really early on. Another huge change was that smoke grenades were now volumetric and dynamic. In Counter-Strike Go, the old smokes were unchangeable in shape and volume, but CS2's dynamic smokes can be interacted with, either by shooting at them or throwing a nade, which opened up all the possibilities for strats to counter smokes. Most of the visual aspects got completely revamped as well, with Source 2's lighting and effects contributing to make even the older maps look fresh. So yeah, that's basically the brief history of Counter-Strike. But wait, what was the video about again? Oh yeah, it's about the beauty in its simplicity. So here's the thing that took me years to understand. While other games are busy adding battle passes, seasonal events, and new operators every 3 months, Counter-Strike has basically been running the exact same core loop for 25 years. Of course, relatively recently, we've seen the Armory and we did have operations, but those basically only added 1 or 2 new seasonal maps. But aside from that, the core gameplay loop is pretty much unchanged. You'd buy your guns, plant the bomb, defend the site, win or lose the round. But that simplicity, it's not a limitation, it's the entire point of the game. Think about chess for a second. The rules haven't changed in 500 years. A pawn still moves forward 1 square, a knight moves in an L shape, and yet, the game's almost infinite depth makes it so that till today, new strategies and ideas are still being discovered. I would argue that Counter-Strike kinda works the same way. But what really hit me was when I was watching my girlfriend pick up CS for the first time. She picked up an AK, sprayed wildly at an enemy, missed every shot and died. She then asked, "Why are my shots not hitting?" The crosshair was right on him. But to any other CS player out there, they would have known that it's because of the AK's strict spray pattern. That beautiful, brutal, unchanging spray pattern that pulls up and to the right, which is basically the same pattern it's had since 1999. The same pattern that I spent thousands of hours using and, well, trying to master. And that's when it clicked for me. Counter-Strike doesn't change because it just doesn't need to. Every single mechanic in this game is a skill that you yourself can master. Of course, there's first shot inaccuracy, running inaccuracies, and some form of luck involved. But the majority of the time, It's pure, beautiful skill on display. Here's where it gets even deeper though. The economy system in Counter-Strike might be the most underappreciated piece of game design in history. You lose a round? You get, well, a small amount of money. You win a round? Well, simple, you get more money. But in its simplicity, you have other smaller mechanics that add on to it. Lose multiple rounds in a row, you start getting loss bonus. Plant the bomb even if you lose, you still get extra cash. Get kills with certain weapons? Well, you get a different amount of money depending on which weapon you use to kill them. This makes it so that every round can be an accumulation of small wins. Even if you lose the round as a whole, you're never completely out of the game. Even when you're down 3-12, there's always the one-off chance that your team stacks the right site with P250s and somehow, just somehow, clutch the round. Take this from the GOAT, Simple for instance. He has a Deagle, a $700 weapon, against the enemy's full kit. Even with that kind of disadvantage, he isolates his fights and wins them all with that $700 Deagle. This game lets you express your skills so freely that if you're good enough, you might just be able to win any round, no matter how broke your economy is. And honestly, we need to talk about Dust 2. There is absolutely no way in hell that you have not heard or played Dust 2 before. It is literally the most popular gaming map of all time. Those double doors at mid, A long, B tunnels. These aren't just map callouts anymore. They're basically a part of gaming culture. And you know why? It's because it's been hailed as one of the most balanced maps ever created. The map is so balanced that it's basically a 50-50 chance whether CTs or Ts win. A truly balanced map where no side is given an advantage, where everything is up to you and your skill. And the crazy part? Dust 2 was created by a 17-year-old, David Johnston, in 2001. Just think about it, right? A random teenager ended up creating the most played multiplayer map in gaming history, which I think is a pretty insane accomplishment for a 17-year-old. But let's talk about CS's skill ceiling.
Chris is an op still in the picture. Op still very much in the round. Oh, Chris! He's found 3. It's down to a 2-on-2. Chris, can he close this with an ace? Oh my God! Chris, the Wolf of Wall Street gets an ace!
I've been playing Counter-Strike for over a decade, clocking in thousands of hours over that time. And just last week, I learned a whole ass new smoke lineup on Mirage, a map that I've been literally playing since I started CSGO. That's the thing about CS that modern games don't understand. In Valorant, you can master an agent's ability in maybe like 100 hours, give or take. And I'm not talking pro level, I'm just speaking, competitively competent. But in Counter-Strike, Nico has 20,000 hours, and he's still finding new ways to use the same flashbangs that we've had since 1999. The skill ceiling isn't just high, it's essentially infinite. Well, like most FPS games. But the difference is that this is all mechanical. You don't have an ultimate ability to bail you out. Most of the time, you don't have a get out of jail free card. And if you died, you knew is because someone played the game better than you in that fight. Well, it's that or they're cheating. However, here's the beautiful part about that. You'd always know exactly why you lost. Maybe your crosshair placement was off, or maybe you decided to spray instead of bursting, or you white peeked when you should have jiggled. Every death is a lesson, and every round is a chance to improve. And that brings me back a little bit. Remember what happened when Valve decided to add the Negev meta in 2017? When they made it cost $2,000 instead of $5,700? People were abusing it. You would suddenly have teams buying Negev on anti-eco rounds. You had set plays designed around suppressive fire. The meta evolved, adapted, and eventually settled into something new. But they didn't need to add a new gun. They just changed one number, one price, and it created months of experimentation. That's the magic of constraints. When you can't add new content, you'd have to get creative with what already exists. And if you think about creativity, I think of the Olaf boost. Imagine this, 3 players standing on each other's heads to see over a wall that was never meant to be seen over. It was so controversial that it nearly destroyed his team's reputation. But at the same time, you can't deny it was genius, absolute genius, using existing mechanics in ways that nobody had ever imagined. I would argue that they weren't even abusing a bug. It wasn't a bug, it wasn't a feature. It was simply emergent gameplay from simple and consistent rules. And here's something that nobody talks about enough. Counter-Strike's social dynamic that's born from such a hardcore competitive game. You have 5 players, no respawns, and voice chat that continues after death. This created something unique at the time. When you die in round 3, you become a spectator, a coach, or even a cheerleader for your remaining teammates. One's flank, or he's low, or maybe even a plant for long, our team's there. But how about when you're the last one alive? 4 teammates watching your every move. That pressure creates moments that you'll remember forever. However, it goes a little deeper than that. The economy forces cooperation. Do we full save? Should we force buy? Or should we drop the bottom fragger on op because he's actually useless without it? These micro negotiations happen every round. And over time, you learn to read your teammates like a book. You know who plays aggressive when tilted, who goes quiet when they're focused. You know who needs encouragement and who needs to be left alone. The social interactions essentially force you to make friends with your teammates. And although there are toxic people out there, everywhere, I would say in general my experience with Counter-Strike has been great. But that's about all I have for social fabric. So let's get to the point. Why has Counter-Strike survived when every other shooter has faded away or reinvented itself beyond recognition? It's because it respects its players. It doesn't manipulate you with daily quests. It doesn't force you to grind the battle pass. It doesn't invalidate your skills with seasonal meta changes. When you get good at CS, you stay good at CS. Your muscle memory, your game sense, your 1,000 hours of practice, they mean something. But more than that, Counter-Strike proves that the perfect simplicity beats imperfect complexity every single time. 1 bomb, 2 sites, 5 versus 5. These aren't limitations. These are a sandbox where you can express your skill and creativity freely. And that's the beautiful simplicity of Counter-Strike. It's not just a game that refuses to change. It's a game that simply doesn't need to. Because when you've created something timeless, why would you? So the next time you load up Dust 2, you're not just playing a game. You're participating in a 25-year-old evolution about what competitive gaming is all about when you strip away everything except what matters. Pure skill, pure competition, pure Counter-Strike. And honestly, that's all we ever wanted. But hey, that's all I have for today. Just be sure to drop a like and maybe sub. But most importantly, send a comment of what video you'd like to see next, because I'm kind of running out of ideas here. I need your help, guys.